welcome back to the Who Are You to Lead Anyway podcast. I am so glad that you're here with me today. I look forward to these conversations so much. So, if you have just found me in my work, I am your host, Cynthia Jamieson, leadership, life, and career growth coach. And if you've been with me since the beginning, thank you so much for coming back. I appreciate you so much for just being in my world. Today, I think this is episode 92, and today I want to explore the theme of stepping into your power in a slightly different way by asking one particular question, which is this: who do you need to be? And I want to ask this question and answer this question using the concept, I can't get my words out today, using the concept of archetypes. So, for a little bit of context, late last year in 2023, if you're listening in real time, I started working with another coach. And in the program that I am in, we use archetypes. And so I have been really leaning into this concept myself. And earlier this year in 2024, I read a book on it called Archetypes, A Beginner's Guide to Your Inner Net. This book was written by Carolyn Miss. I hope I'm saying her name correctly. And Carolyn Miss has worked in the field of energy medicine and human consciousness for over 20 years. So I have been really, really leaning into and exploring and just loving the work that I have been doing and what I have been learning. And I wanted to share that with you. So, from an archetype perspective, archetypes are ancient and universal symbols or patterns of behavior that, once discovered, by making the unconscious conscious, can help us better understand ourselves and our place in the world. And so, some archetypes that you will resonate with when I say them are the advocate. Right. So when I say advocate, you're probably thinking of people that go out and advocate. The visionary, the same would be true of that one. The athlete, the caregiver, the artist slash creative, depending on which word resonates most with you. The intellectual, the executive, the judge, the victim, the healer, the rebel. There are so many more archetypes that you can play with. However, you're probably already getting the sense of the energies that accompany these archetypes and how common they are. So I was actually surprised that I hadn't heard it, not to say that I know everything, because I absolutely don't. But I was like, oh, what is this concept? How can I learn more about it? So I read the book, but I also, because I am a card person, I went out and purchased a set of archetype cards, Carolyn Miss archetype cards, and I've been having just a little bit more fun and a little bit more learning as a result of that. So, what I want to do today is delve into how you might use archetypes within the context of who you are as a leader by using myself as an example. So I'm going to share what I think are some practical insights because I tend to think more practically, more logically, like what is it that you're wanting to and can use and put into place and practice for yourself. So I'm going to offer those things. And I want you to think about this lens for yourself. Like, what is the vision that you have of who you need to be to show up and express as your most authentic self? So that's the kind of pin I want you to hold and the lens I want you to look through is to be asking yourself, like, who do I need to be to show up in ways that I can be the most authentic version of myself? Now, as I navigate my role as the owner of Cynthia Jamieson Coaching, I felt so drawn toward the liberator and the storyteller archetypes. Now, the liberator is about freeing ourselves or freeing myself from old entrenched beliefs, attitudes, habits, patterns, relationships, and behavior that is not serving me. So when I think about my decades as an HR professional and the leader that I was in those circumstances, there were a lot of patterns of thinking and behaving that I needed to change in order to be successful at working for myself. So I'll give you an example. I needed to identify where my employee mindset was getting in the way. So, a simple example is like as an employee, there are standard, quote unquote, standard hours of work. So, when you start work, when you end work, you would get a break, you would get a lunch, you would do the things, all of that. As an entrepreneur, I I began my business thinking that way. And so what did I do? I created a business where I had a beginning of work, I had an end of work, I created a break for myself. And I also, so as I'm leaning into becoming more of a business owner and an entrepreneur for myself, I didn't work for myself or leave a corporate job in order to work 9 to 5 at home. That's not what I created. So I'm working myself through some of those things. And so my employee mindset was really getting in the way. So I needed to get it like the looking glass out and really examine what were all the ways that patterning, that conditioning was showing up for me, and how can I step outside of that? And so the liberator archetype really gives me the expansive ability to do that. And so that's why I chose that one. Now, the storyteller is all about the way of perceiving and communicating in the world in a way that, for me, brings order out of what can often be chaotic, and to be able to relay information in ways that heighten awareness, that really expand awareness, because awareness creates choice, but only when we are aware of it. And so, through storytelling, through messaging, through interactions, through social media, all of those sorts of things, for me, leaning into the storyteller has been incredible. And it's just given me a different way to show up and serve all of you. Now, as leaders, it's essential to ask ourselves a very conscious question. Who do we need to be in whatever context we are in? So let me give you some examples. Who do I need to be to have a difficult conversation? Who do I need to be to ask for a salary increase or a promotion? Who do I need to be to take a vacation without being tethered to the phone? You get the idea, but these contexts are super important. I just had a client this morning. It was like, we were exploring how they could communicate in a way that would be brief, bold, and gone. That's how they described they wanted to be. So when we explored that, after they explored the different ways and options that they could do that, what was in the way, I left them to think about, like, who do you need to be in those conversations? Because that version of you is very different than the version of you that shows up in a more verbose way. And that's their words. So I don't mind sharing that with you. So, as I mentioned, you'll get the idea, but the circumstance and the context, in those, you need to lean into different ways of being, and you can leverage archetypes in order to do so. Now, why would you want to do it? Because it's easy and human for us to get caught up in the day-to-day grind. And so when we're thinking what we always thought, when we're doing what we've always done, when we're being who we're always being, it's crucial to take a step back and reflect on where we are going and our version for the future that we have, that we're creating, that we're literally actively creating in this moment. Like, every thought we think is creating the reality which we live in. And so I don't believe that, and however, I'm totally open to being wrong. I don't think that anyone would disagree with the notion that we all want to enjoy the life we have a little bit more than we might be enjoying it right now. Even me. And I mean, I love the life that I have created. And there are ways that I am looking to make changes to it that I can be in more alignment with it. I can be more embodied. I can be more expressive, be more of who I am in other areas of my life. So, the question to answer for ourselves as an individual is, who do I need to be in service of living and leading or creating a life I love? So, let's start by reflecting on our personal vision for the future. Now, unless you are driving, I would, because safety is like imperative, it's number one. It's what my husband does for a living, and we talk about it a lot. So, unless you are driving, I would invite you to close your eyes and visualize the ideal life that you would love to lead. What does it look like? What kind of leader are you there? What is different for you then than it is now? How are you different then? Like, what is it that you're doing specifically that's different in that version of you versus this version of you? And if it's useful to think about, like, creating a hologram and just starting with some of the bigger things, like, what does this future version of me think and believe about the people that I lead? What do they think and believe about the life that I'm creating? What do they wear? How do they speak? How do they walk? Where do they sit? What do they love? What don't they love? What are the boundaries that they have? Like you can really begin to fill this out, fill this in with the color that you want it to have, let it to take shape in the way that you see it for yourself. Because here's the fascinating thing. You would be drawn to that, not because it exists outside of you, but you would be drawn to that because it's within you and you want to bring it into being. And another way that you can look at this is to think about the people that you admire, the people that you appreciate. What is it about them that is being called forward from you that you're wanting to bring into that version of you that you're creating? So wherever you are, take a moment to embrace this vision and feel the impact on your life and embrace it. So for me, I'll just share. I imagine like I'm going to have a team. I'm going to have several individuals that work for me. We are a passion purposeful, mission driven organization here. And I will be leading others. We will be changing the world one leader at a time. I've said that before, but I know what that version of me, I know how she needs to show up. And I'm using those pronouns because those are my pronouns, but that version of me makes decisions much more quickly than even I do today. So when I find myself stuck, I step into that future version of myself so that I can make a decision from there. So that's another beautiful question. Like, how does that version of you make decisions differently than this version of you? So, as I shared last episode, last week was my birthday. So I have been reflecting so deeply on these questions for myself because I want to pick up on the nuances of what it is that I want to shift this year over last year. And I try not to give a lot of time to what happened back there, like in the past, because I don't find it super useful anymore. I've spent a lot of time doing that and I got the wisdom and nuggets that I needed to. But my preference is to spend time thinking about what is that newer version of me that I'm creating, that I'm wanting to walk into, step into the life I want to be living. How can I live it now? How can I live it sooner, faster? That's what I'm wanting to do for myself. So I just set that different context. So I'm looking for the nuances over the next year that I want to step into. So let's explore how understanding archetypes can help us on this journey to understand ourselves a little bit more. Now, as leaders of our lives and of our teams and of our organizations, we can leverage archetypes to shape our identity, to shape our behavior. This is such a powerful tool for self-awareness and growth as a leader, and as an individual. So when I was planning this episode, I wanted to offer some questions to reflect on and to share an overview of how I'm using these archetypes for myself so that you can get a sense of what it looks like in a more specific way. And again, find the way to apply it to yourself as the leader of your own life as you're listening. This is what coaching is often like as a group. So other people get coaching on things, and I'm always thinking about like, how does that apply to me? What's the nugget there that I can take for myself and expand myself? So, what does it mean to embody archetypes in our daily lives? So, the best place to begin is to ask yourself, what is the quality and characteristic of a future version of you as a leader? So, to live and lead authentically, which is what's important to me, I must align my action with my vision. And if you're listening to this podcast, I mean, that's really what this is about. It's like, who are you to lead anyway? It's the most authentic version of you. Now, as a business owner, I have defined a clear mission and vision for Cynthia Jamieson Coaching, which I'm not going to share all of that with you, but I will share in simple terms what it means, because these are guiding principles that I have as I navigate my journey to entrepreneurship. So, our mission is to inspire individuals to stand up and take inspired action and step into leading a life that they love authentically. My vision is to change the world of work. But in order to do that, in simple terms, what it means is to align the head, the heart, and the hands and focus on the human first. My intention with this vision is to connect the thinking, the feeling, and the doing to the expression and the essence of who we are being. And so for me, as the liberator archetype, it embodies certain qualities and characteristics focused on freedom, empowerment, and social change that I want to lean into in order to accomplish the vision and mission of our organization. And the specific qualities that I'm leaning into are courage, compassion, and vision. So, what that looks like for me is to be brave and to be willing to challenge existing norms and systems to bring about positive change while having deep empathy because we are humans, we are not robots. And it's time for us to change the world of work where people are valued as much as, if not more than, results. And I'm so committed to doing my part. And the characteristic that I'm leaning into and holding myself accountable to the most is to be more disruptive, which will be uncomfortable. So I don't know whether you know me in real life or not, but I am being disruptive will be uncomfortable. I have been conditioned to go along. I have been conditioned to follow the rules. I have been conditioned to help other people follow the rules, to do what was asked, to not rock the boat. And in HR, I'm sure you can see that that was super useful. And I could also assure you, you could probably see that it's not as useful to me now as a business owner. Of course, there are processes that I want to adhere to. There are principles that I want to have as I work with my clients, absolutely. But also, if there are systems that are broken and processes that are not working from a leadership perspective, I need to be able to disrupt thinking about that. So this is where I need to ask myself, who do I need to be? That's where this comes into play because the vision I have of changing the world of work would never happen if I wasn't going to rock a few boats or share some opinions that I have. Now, I'm probably not going to be the person that's going to be the like advocate on some pulpit somewhere and do that, but I will find my own ways to be disruptive and to create change. So, what I want to see, my vision for the world is more compelling than my discomfort of being disruptive by speaking the truth, by speaking my truth, by taking bold action in pursuit of an equitable society where we value and leverage our individual unique strengths and talents. Now, another archetype that I want to share with you, just because I think it can be interesting to have a couple of them to look through the lens, the other one that I've been leaning into is the storyteller. Now, the qualities that I'm leaning to there are creativity, expressiveness, and passion. So, what this looks like is that I am sharing in a way and in ways that are vulnerable, sharing my experiences, sharing my learnings, sharing things in a way that's compelling to you as someone who is in my world, in my audience, in order to support you to create change, to be inspired to create change in your own life, to express myself, to express my own emotion, my ideas, my work in new and different ways. So in creating this podcast, just showing up in different ways, being able to do that. I also am creating a Who Are You to Lead Anyway card deck that may or may not be the title of it, but I'm doing that right now that I will likely self-publish, which is allowing me to be creative in a different way, allowing me to learn things about myself in different ways. I used to be incredibly creative as a young adult. And then within the corporate context, that wasn't what I was hired to do. So of course I didn't build those muscles as much then as I am now. So, as I mentioned in the podcast, this is now 90 something episodes. There have been shorter episodes. There have been reflective episodes. There have been differences in my voice. There have been different things that I've shared. There has been increased confidence as I step into and utilize my voice. How do I express myself now differently than from when I started? So, again, depending on if you work with me in real time as well, you could have noticed other small changes and ways that I have made shifts and changes to step into more alignment and more embodiment with who I am and what matters to me. So, some examples are I've gotten rid of some old patterning by way of things, quote unquote things. I'm making like air quotes, but I realize you may not be able to see me. in my office that aren't aligned with the future version of myself that I am consciously creating. So it may seem a little silly to you, but I'm going to share anyway. I bought a new chair, one that didn't have a corporate look to it. I painted my wall a sage green color so that I can ground myself into a more serene space. I work with and hold space with a lot of clients, and that takes a lot out of me. And so I need to be able to replenish myself in ways that feel good and useful and support me. And part of that is changing the ambiance of the room that I have. I have created and curated various things to have in my space, which feed my new identity in ways that I never thought about doing that in before. I have a letter book that is called Letters to My Future Self to remind me visually of where I'm going. I also use it with my clients. Now, I'm sharing all of this with you so that you can think about what are the small shifts that you can make in order to tether yourself or support yourself to step into the vision of the leader that you want to be. Now, I've just begun a new mastermind. We will be having our first all day kickoff call tomorrow. So the day after this episode comes out. And yeah, I think I just messed up in what I was just saying, but you get the idea. I'm gonna start the day after this episode comes out. So whenever you're listening, it's Wednesday. We're gonna have a full day kickoff call. And I chose to put myself in this space with a brand new coach in order to learn the skills to be able to connect with the people in my world, my audience, my clients, my family, everyone on a deeper level, to foster connection on a deeper level, to be more of myself and speak to you and offer perspective and wisdom through both my own and my client stories. Because I'm so dedicated to to the work that I'm doing and honing these skills in service of growth and development as a leader and as a coach and as a mentor. So I'm doing that so that I can call forward that future version that I hold of myself sooner, faster. I'm like, yeah, if I put myself in this room, I'm going to bring that future closer to me. I want to do that right now. Let me get started. So, for you in your future, that might involve stepping into an archetype of being a visionary, more forward thinking and innovative in ways that inspire your team to be able to do what they need to do faster. I don't want you to get the impression that, that faster is necessarily better. That's not the point. But the point is to be consciously choosing actions and decisions that can enable you to create the future that you want and that you don't necessarily need to wait. Now, another archetype that might be some like when I'm thinking about like you, the listeners that are listening, could be the strategist archetype, like the planning, the organizing, and the developing effective strategies in order to achieve your career goals, your leadership goals, your life goals. Only you will know what the archetype might be for you. But I invite you to engage in it in ways where you would be consciously choosing who you are being, who you are becoming. And once you've decided on an archetype or a vision, if you prefer the vision approach, that's totally fine. For your future, the second question to ask yourself is, what are you doing differently in this future version of you specifically? So for me as a liberator, I challenge the status quo by questioning my own thoughts and beliefs, the old patterns of conditioned thinking within myself. And when I see it within my clients, I do the same. I will question what is it that they're thinking in service of facilitating their growth and their transformation. And this has been incredibly eye-opening for me. Like there are so many things that I have been just attuning to about myself. Like I speak sometimes and I hear my mother's voice come out, and I'm like, well, that's just interesting. So who am I really being? Am I being me? Or am I being some version of my mother in something, right? Am I thinking something that I've always thought, like back to the employee mindset? Like, is Cynthia being an employee right now as she makes this decision, or is she being the entrepreneur? So, really challenging myself, challenging my habits, my patterns, my beliefs, my assumptions, all of that falls under the liberator. Now, as a storyteller, what I'm doing differently there is I'm using this use of metaphors, symbols, imagery and stories with my clients in order to unlock new perspectives, new possibilities in ways that are incredibly creative. They're very expansive, and I'm always meeting my clients where they're at. So depending, like I can tell whether clients would find that useful or not, and we just explore it and do that. But the clients that I have, it's been so much more fun for them, and the insights are so much more richer and deeper because we've used this imagery to kind of create a bit of space between them and the thing that they're working through. When I share client transformations with you as listeners, or people like if you're following me on social media, I'm leaning into ways to share those insights, that growth and wisdom, so that they can benefit people that are in my audience. And I do that here on the podcast, my newsletters, etc. And this will only increase. I will only get louder and louder in a positive way, in a good way, about the mission and the vision that I have, because it's only through doing that that we can actually create change. And so this might be a great opportunity to say, like, by the way, I'm so happy and so open to having the gift of your feedback. Like, I really would love to know, like, what is it you love about this podcast? What is it that keeps you tuning in week after week? What is it that you want me to do more of? What do you want me to do less of as I lean into this storyteller archetype? So it's my role to, for me, myself, it's like my self responsibility to hold the vision that I have of myself. As a coach, it's my responsibility to hold the vision that my clients have for them and to ensure that whatever it is that we're working through, whether it be, sometimes we meet weekly, bi-weekly, depending on how they work with me. um, I'm always asking them, like, what is it? How is what we're working on today connected to your future vision of you? How is it in service of what you're wanting? And so, what this means is I will challenge them, I will disrupt them with so much love, their thinking and their behavioral patterns, with the intention of helping free them from their own patterns and status quo, right? Because it takes so much courage and so much conscious choice to break free from our own mental constraints and change the narrative and embrace our uniqueness. And this is what's required to have and make an impact and to bring about positive change in a broader leadership context. Now, I just want to pause for a second and talk about something like, as a human, we all have opportunities to calibrate ourselves to the negative around us because that's there all day, every day. And all that will do is create more of the same. And then we wonder why nothing has changed, right? So we can do that. That's a choice. Instead, what I'm advocating for and inviting you to come along for is to calibrate toward the future that you're creating. So I'm going to be calibrating to myself what I'm creating for my future with and for my client's future, which requires intentional change. And you can do the same, right? You get to calibrate to what it is you want more of in your life. You can choose the negativity or you can choose the future self, whichever serves your greatest good. Now, the reason why this is super important to me more now than ever is because as things change, things change. And last weekend, I had the opportunity to spend some time with my granddaughters, who are 3 and 3 months. And I have to tell you, as I watched them play, explore, and dream, I couldn't help but feel such a sense of responsibility for nurturing their young hearts and minds. I thought to myself, like, these are our future leaders, and they are going to be growing up in a world that is constantly changing around us, around them. They need to be empowered to unlock their potential, to unlock their gifts. And it's simply not enough to pass down the status quo. It's not enough for my grandchildren, and I expect that you would agree it's not enough for yours either. It is time for change. It's essential to support and encourage the current and next generations to dream big, to think boldly. We need to make shift happen, a shift from fear to empowerment. We must provide leaders now and in the future with the tools, the resources, the support that they need to navigate the complexities of the world with confidence, compassion, and resilience. Listen, we owe it to ourselves. We owe it to our children. We owe it to our grandchildren. We owe it to our friends and families to challenge the norms and the systems that are not working, to break down the silos, the barriers, and create a more inclusive and equitable society for all of us to live in. Now, while it seems like the most practical and logical approach to leadership, I recognize and I realize that what I'm posing and actively creating is radical change. And now is the time to lead by example. So I encourage you to explore and to embrace your uniqueness, to cultivate your passion and pursue your authenticity and your dreams. Because together we can change the world to one which empowers the hearts and minds, unleashes the creativity and innovation within us, and transforms fear we have into possibilities instead. A world where we can collectively thrive and flourish. Now, I get super passionate when I think about this, but this brings me to my last question. So, as you imagine the future you want to create, I want you to ask yourself a question, and I want you to ask it mindfully and ahead of time. How does it feel to be living and leading in alignment with your truest self? Because here's what I can promise you. The more you live and lead in alignment with what matters to you, with who you are, when you are clear on your priorities, where you're going, what your North Star vision is, you will feel less stress and angst. You will feel so good. Things will feel better, that the stress, the angst, the worry, the anxiety, all of that will shift. The layers will just start to come off as you tether toward that future self that you're creating. The things that don't matter will just start to morph out of you. You will just, that's just what will happen. Now, for me, to live and lead in alignment with my truest self, I feel a deep and rich sense of clarity, purpose, and passion. My desire to create and inspire positive change has always lived within me, but it was suppressed in the corporate world. I mean, there was places and stages that it could come out and play a little bit more, but in a lot of corporate experiences, that's not the world, right? You're living in the problems all of the time. And I get and I understand that. But let's talk about how that problem is an actual opportunity. Let's talk about how that's actually a possibility instead. And there's a lot of talk about calibration. It's so much easier to calibrate to, this is the lie we tell ourselves, that it's so much easier to calibrate to the negative voices that are speaking to us versus calibrating to the positive voices that are speaking around us. And how do we unstick ourselves from the negativity and plug in to the positivity? Because that's more energizing and more fulfilling and more in service of the greater good for all of us. So for me, right now, it feels expansive. It feels invigorating, and I guess saying this in the moment, it feels so liberating. It's about being courageous and about being willing to take the lead. And it's not about comparison. It's not about competition with others. For me, it's about being the best version of myself. That's why I immerse myself in mastermind groups, not to measure up to other people. There's no that doesn't serve me. What it is serving me is to gain new insight, to apply that insight to what truly matters to me, to make it mine, to take the learning and make it mine. So let's hear a little bit about how these principles translate into real life transformations. I want to share with you about my client. I'm going to call them T. And I always do this because unless you hear it from them directly, I always want to be mindful and protect my client's confidentiality. And so I like to just give a little bit of like whatever their learning is, I want to give that to you, but I want to also maintain their privacy because that's theirs. That's their story. So my client T, for example, their goal is to be a better leader. And what that meant to them is to be resilient, to build rapport, to really connect with and build relationship with each of their direct reports and to communicate effectively. And in our coaching sessions, we We dive deeply beneath the surface. We use metaphors like putting on scuba gear to uncover hidden treasures. What's beneath the waterline there? What are the things that are creating the behaviors that they demonstrate that are then lending themselves to the outcomes and results that they get? Now, through this process of coaching them, they have discovered as well, their core values: generosity, authenticity, knowledge, creativity, and making a difference. And so these core values have become their guiding light. This is who they're being. This is the aspiration of who they want to be in the world. And it's also their inner guidance system to help them know what is right for them. If it meets those criteria, that's right for them. And that shaped who they are as a communicator and as a leader from a style perspective. So, who they're being is really showing up incredibly differently because they're open and honest about some of the things that they see, some of the questions that they have, how they feel. But it's also not just about discovering new insights, it's about creating new choices, right? So I talked about this earlier. It's great to have a new realization or an insight, and what will you do with it? So every week we explore these different perspectives, we uncover new treasures, and tease focus shifts a little bit more every week toward the future that they envision for themselves. And they take action in alignment with that every week. And then as things come up, as they take that action, they bring that back and we do coaching on that. Now, they have been in their organization for just over 3 years, and they have been promoted beyond what they thought was possible for themselves already. And they have been promoted in our coaching engagement. And so it's just so incredibly fun to just see, like, as they go out and do this work, again, they're pulling that future version of themselves much closer to them because they've working with a coach, because they've decided that they want to really explore what it is, the patterns and ways of behavior and being that are in the way. Let's kind of work through that, take that off, and then step into that future version that they're creating. So, how can you apply these insights to your life? Let's talk about that. It's time to act. That's it. That's all. It's time to explore your vision for yourself, to do some research. Maybe you want to explore some archetypes to propel you forward. Whether it's through self reflection, seeking mentorship, or embracing new challenges, you have the power to create a life you love. So anchor yourself to the vision, allow it to call you forward, and make conscious choices aligned with your future self and your goals. I can promise you that living on autopilot will not get you where you want to be. You want to anticipate the obstacles, yes, of course, but don't dwell on them. Understand what it is that you can do differently. Ask yourself how you can overcome challenges and continue to move forward. If you choose to do this work with me as your coach, your guide, your mentor, and I'm not sure why you wouldn't, but either way, it's essential to understand that focusing on the negative or the reasons why you can't achieve something will only hold you back, will only keep you where you are, and what got you here will not get you where you're going. It's time to be present. It's time to be aware of your thoughts because every thought you think is shaping your reality. Calibrate to the future always. So, as I wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with this. You have the power to create a life you love. However, you want to experience it is available to you. It all starts with asking yourself, who do I need to be? So take that first step, embrace your vision, and remember you are capable of so much more than you can imagine. So thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Who Are You to Lead Anyway podcast. I will see you back here next week. And until then, keep embracing your true self and leading with purpose. Have a great week. Goodbye. Hey there, it's Cynthia. Thanks for being a part of the Who Are You to Lead Anyway journey. Join my newsletter for exclusive updates and resources. Get a complimentary self-discovery workbook at www.cynthiajamiesoncoach.ca. Your feedback shapes this show, so share your thoughts. And if you love the podcast, help spread the word. Thanks for investing in your leadership growth. Let's thrive together.